Hi, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to another fantastic episode of Guest Safety Officer Lobby Group. This week, well, what can I say? I've had to get rid of Gary, but fortunately, we've got three wonderful ladies, women in security, who are going to tell us about their respective journeys, what they've found life to be like working in security, and it's really good, and I just had to share it with you. So as usual, we're going to do the introductions, but because Gary's not here, I'll just have to do myself first, and then I'll hand over to each of the ladies. So my name's Ian Fox. I'm a generalist in security. I've done loads and loads of wonderful things. And yeah, it's been an excellent experience. So now on to the most important people in the show. First of all, I'll introduce them first, and then I'll hand them over. We've got Vanessa Twining-Wright. We've got Lisa Baskott. Yes, we have. See, she's been in the news lately. And we've got Gail Mathers, who has been working her little tail off, to say the least. I'm even surprised she managed to get here. She's worked really, really hard. What is it, 11 days, I think. But I'll let them tell you now who they are in the first place, and then I'm going to ask them how they got there. So a brief introduction, please. Ladies. Vanessa.
Okay, so I'm Vanessa Twining-Wright. I have been in security since 1994. Someone else can do the math right now. Started in retail, then went into door supervising, and now run a company which I've been doing on and off for 10 years nearly.
Yeah. Gail?
So I'm Gail Mathers, and I've been in security for about 10 years now. I think I'm coming up for my fourth badge, so I think that probably makes it about 12 years, doesn't it? And started off in door supervision, pretty much stayed that way. And I also run a security company as well.
Lisa, new girl on the block.
Yeah, so, it's just about, you've taken the words out of my mouth. My name is Lisa Baskott. I am the founder and CEO of a company called Second Line of Defence. It's a recruitment company that specialises in getting more women into frontline security. I've been in security for 2 years. So I definitely am the new girl on the block, but I'm hoping to bring about some radical change to an industry where I think it's long overdue.
Oh, that's all brilliant. So, first question, keeping it simple. And it's great as well, when I do the editing, because I know where I am, which, when you get old, you tend to forget most things.
We'll let you know when we get there, Ian.
Well, Okay, Vanessa, you posted this week, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, at some point. I've lost track of days, but I think it was like middle of last week.
Yeah, about your journey from 1994. Yeah. Tell me, what on earth made you do it in the first place?
No clue is the answer. I mean, when I first left school, I went into catering. So I was, working in catering. I'd moved up to Manchester. I kept seeing adverts for security and CP at the time, or they were bodyguards as they were listed. They're not CP. And when I first was looking, I was thinking, I can't do this job, like the CP side. And then a company advertised for security guards in London. And I thought, well, I'm from London. I've lived in London most of my life, bar the 18 months I did in Manchester. So I basically applied, did the interview process, did the training, survived the week. And I think I managed 18 months in retail security before I was losing the will to live rapidly. And then I had a friend who worked the doors in Camden and introduced me to his company, and I basically got a job and just went on to doors at weekends and left retail security behind.
See, Gail?
So basically, I got into it. I was dating a guy that worked the doors, and traditionally date night was Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. Well, of course, where was this joker working the doors? So I thought, well, if you can't beat them, join them. So that's what I did, and I am still with said joker. And I just found that because I like people, I just found it was a job that I actually really, really enjoyed. I found that you actually did become a part of their night out. And I have to say, I love it. Personally, I have done pretty much every job retail throughout, various ups and downs of through COVID. I've done retail, etc. And I'm still here because I can honestly say that I still really enjoy the job.
Well, Lisa, accidental activist, my word. Now there's a mouthful, in and of itself. But first, I just want to say, were you a magistrate before that?
Yeah, I still am a magistrate. I've been a magistrate for nearly 11 years. I can't believe where the time has gone. It's just flown by. And a couple of years ago, I was appointed a specialist role, and I have become the ED&I lead for magistrates within the whole of the southeast of England. So
can you just tell us what an
Yeah, so equality, diversity and inclusion.
Right,
So the whole idea is that the magistracy recognise that it was full of sort of old white men and women, and
cheers, mate.
And it was wondering why it couldn't find other people that looked like them. And I think they finally recognised that rather than waiting for people to come rushing through the threshold to the Ministry of Justice, they needed to go out there and, take the chat to the community, as it were. So that was great when they finally realised that. And as part of that new scheme, they created a couple of roles, one of which is mine. And my remit is sort of talking about those issues and championing those issues internally within the magistrate. So you become a magistrate, and then it's about the sort of pastoral care that happens as a result of it. Magistrates, I don't know whether most people know, but it's a voluntary role. We are giving back to our community. And the idea that up until recently, we weren't really paying attention to the people that were giving up their free time to kind of, dispense justice was kind of mad, really. So that was really good. So that's an ongoing process. And that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
My path into this role was one born out of sadness, really. I'm born and bred in South London in a place called Clapham. I think we all know that a couple of years ago, a young woman called Sarah Everard was brutally murdered by a police officer called Wayne Cousins. Well, I had just moved with my children to Brighton Hove, relocated, new life. And I remember turning on the TV and thinking, oh my God, that's it. They're never going to find her alive. I just knew. And then within a couple of days, he was charged with her abduction, rape, and murder. Well, when I say that the course of my life changed completely at that point, I didn't know it then, but my disgust and my disbelief turned into anger. And I vowed that as a woman of 53 years old with 2 young children, teenagers now, my daughter Eva's just turned 16, that I was not going to spend another moment worrying about them having to look over their shoulders, or for myself having to do that either. I think as a woman, I have the absolute God-given right to be able to walk down the street without the fear of being persecuted, harmed, violated in some way. And so basically I came into security to change the narrative within frontline security and to get more women into the role.
Yeah, so that's fantastic. Seeing as you know, there's been a few that have been there a little bit before you, but But what's great is you're here, Lisa. Do you know what I mean? That is the real important thing. You're here. You're here now. It doesn't matter when you arrive or why you arrive. It's the fact that you're here.
Thank
you know, and as somebody who's been involved in the industry for a while, I'm pleased, and it's absolutely vital that you are. Well, I'm going to change it up a bit now because it's something. So, running a company, a security company, no less. And I'm going to say, Gail, what's been the difficulties or challenges that you've faced of actually running the company?
Okay, so the biggest problem with the security industry is quite transient, and getting people to commit. The money's actually gone down over the years. You'll hear sort of doormen saying that, 20 years ago they were getting 20 quid an hour, etc. And I can understand the frustrations of that. And then move forward, the money had gone down, but then they had to pay for training and licenses, which was, difficult. But it's something that people do to earn a bit of extra money. That's the hardest part, is getting them to commit to that Friday, Saturday night role, when they've got the demands of their own families, they've got demands of their jobs. It's incredibly difficult. However, when you do get a good team, it's amazing. I mean, so my partner Gerald and I, we've now been doing it for 7 years. I haven't done it on my own. I'm going to put my hands up and say that. And he was always the knowledge behind it, whereas I think possibly I was the logistics behind it. And that mummy voice, if that makes sense, I was the sort of softer, gentler part, whereas Gerald was a little bit more card-lined. I was able to maybe cajole people a little bit more into doing what they didn't think they wanted to do until they said yes. But it's hard to get people to want to do it and find a reason why and commit to it. In the early days, it was more about fighting, people wanting to do it for the fight, but hopefully through the training that we do, we're getting people to understand that actually that's a bad night when you've had a fight. A good night is when everybody's had a wonderful night, says to you on the way out, why can't all door staff be like you? You're a legend. And yesterday I just finished delivering my very first door course, to which they all passed. And I said to them, the first time someone says that to you, you will glow with pride. Because that's what I want to hear, that we're not like all of the door staff, that we are different. But the difficulties still will always be getting the manpower. Or lady power, sorry. But yeah, getting the actual resources.
You're spot on, Gail. It's about creating a professional atmosphere and having professional people, and that needs good people doing the training. And as Gary and I in other shows have discussed, that it's an issue, and it's something we'll talk about in a little bit anyway. Vanessa.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. I mean, getting good staff to stay is the challenging part of recruitment. I noticed, we were talking about this the other day, I think it was about 2015, 2016, there seemed to be another turn in the security. So pre-2015, we had really good, strong core team. As a company, we were probably 25% female, which is brilliant considering we had 100 staff on our books. And then 2015, I don't know what changed. I don't know. I've been blaming the Department of Work and Pensions, but who knows? And there was a massive shift in the caliber of staff coming through. So all the decent staff were leaving. And currently, as it stands, I am the only solid female in my company, which is why I'm regularly working on the door still. Just because you know, there's not the pay there. Most women at some point, they've got their families, they've got their other commitments. It's not really a first line choice of job for most women and even men now. So yeah, it's just very, very hard to find the staff, keep the staff, and I'm really, really struggling to recruit women at the moment. Like, yeah, they're like unicorn poo.
Can I just say about the 2015 there, Vanessa?
Yeah.
One of the key things that happened in 2015 was we had an exercise called Bridging the Gap for the Olympics in 2012.
Right, yeah, of course.
And a lot of people had their badges paid for and the training. 2015 was the first round of renewals.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So they just...
Yeah. So they'd maybe done the Olympics, which must have... I didn't do the Olympics, but it must have been a spectacular thing to do. But this was the first time some of them had to pay for it. Had they been earning the money, were they enjoying it like they were? But I'm exactly the same as you. Yeah, 2015, there was a drop-off spectacularly.
Lisa. No, that was brilliant, Gail. Fantastic. Lisa, what's your
Well, for me, so I'm specifically, so I don't have a security company. I run a recruitment company, and I'm set up as such. And essentially, I set up as a recruitment company because I wanted to try and, you know, attack the industry sector on both accounts. I wanted to educate and speak to people already in the industry, so whether that's on the temporary recruitment side, and I wanted to see how that part of the industry sector was being operated, and I wanted to be able to supply you know, temporary recruitment like the ladies do as well into that sector. But also what I fundamentally wanted to do was address the issue of less than 10, up until December last year, the figure was hovering around 8% of women out of the 400,000 licenses that have been issued since 2001, since the regulator was had been established. Now, I still, when I say that number, I still can't quite believe it. 23 years have gone by, and funnily enough, 2015 is a significant date as well, because 2015 was the very last time the regulator did anything in terms of putting together a survey around diversity, right? That was in 2015. I don't know what happened to that survey. I don't know where the findings have gone, but it fell off a cliff. And now we are in 2023 and we're still having the same old conversation, and it's eked up to 10%. I don't even believe it's 10%, but the figures that they're giving us now is 10%. Now, we make up 51% of the population. The world is a very, very different place than it was 10 years ago, let alone 20 years ago. We've had 2016, a massive movement, the Me Too movement, with women finding their voices after the horrors that was happening vis-a-vis Harvey Weinstein and men like him out in Hollywood, and what was happening to women. And then on the back of that, we had a big social movement around the murder of George Floyd. We're in a different world. And then hot on the heels of that, we had a pandemic. We left the European Union, and then we had a pandemic. So what we saw within our industry was this shrinking of numbers, right? So all our European counterparts decided to leave the country. The industry shrunk. Then hot on the heels, we had Brexit, the whole nighttime economy shut down. Those people went off to find other jobs. And then when it started opening up again, they went, you know what? I don't want to go back there. Fair enough. Shit pay, you know, we're abused. We're not looked after. I'm not going back to that. It shrinks again. In April 2021, the regulator decides, probably not the best time, that they're going to review the training, and we're going to make it slightly more onerous. Not a bad thing, but that's a cost to people renewing their licenses. We've just come out of a situation where people were losing their jobs over a 2-year period, and then you were expecting them to pay an additional X amount of money on top. The timing was really bad. It's not to say what they were doing was wrong. I'm just saying that they could have thought a little bit more sensibly about the timing. So again, shrinking of the number of people that we have on paper who are available to do that job. Now, bearing in mind that, as I said, we've got a society that is changing. We have millennials, we have Gen Zs who are very vocal and they know what they want and they say what they want. Sometimes a little bit entitled, but they're out there anyway. And what comes with that is a demand to be treated as a human being, basically to be seen. And essentially what I had seen in my 2 years on the door, because once I set up my recruitment company, I recognized if I was going to get women to do this job, I absolutely needed to know what that role was about. I needed to do it. And I also needed to be, on that line, having conversations with people coming across the door and the threshold, as well as the people doing the job. It's only then that you're going to get a feeling as to what needs to change. And it was the most vital time. I mean, it's invaluable, that time that I spent on the door. I spoke to young women, the gay community, all sorts of ethnicities, people who've been in the job for 20 years, people who just come into the job. And I was able to take me and myself and my true authentic self, red nails, actually they're green today, red nails, lipstick, peroxide blonde hair, looking smart, looking lovely on the door with a personality, right? And engaging with people. And I think it threw my colleagues that I worked with. They were like, who's this nutter? But it also, I think it shone a light on what the punters wanted and needed from people in that role. And I say to people all the time, I believe that role is as much a hospitality front of line, concierge, do you know what I mean, service. It's about customer experience, right? And I think somewhere along the line we forgot within the frontline sector that we're dealing with humans, right? And people want to be dealt with like, as individuals, and they want to be engaged with. And I think we forgot about how to do that. And this is what I think I brought to the role when I was standing on that door. And the sort of anecdotal evidence that I got from people matched that, right? They were like, oh my God, a bit like Gail, they're like, where have you been? We've been waiting for someone like you. I'd be talking about handbags, shoes, earrings, where they were going before, what they'd done, just making them understand that I was there, as Gail said, to facilitate their night out, not to stop them from getting in. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, we have a duty of care to ensure that people don't come into a premises intoxicated, under the influence. However, we can do that and still be human beings at the same time. We can do that and still be respectful of the people coming across the door. And I think that is what the role needs right now. And I think women are absolutely brilliantly placed with all the right skill set to do that kind of role. It's not about brute force. It's about engagement. It's about empathy. We've heard a lot recently with the recent reports that have been we've all been hearing about the Met Police, and the word that comes up time and time again, and is the word that I use, is empathy, right? Empathy. And it is so important in a frontline security role. I think it's the most important thing.
You're not wrong. I can tell you that. Absolutely spot on. I just want to say, you Gail, what do you think to what Lisa said? Do you agree? Because I mean, my experience, and I'm just going to briefly say this, is that over my time working in the industry, the people who go out there and do this job, 90+% of them go out and they do everything that they can to make sure that customers have a great time and to interact and the personality and put that in, because otherwise it doesn't work. But Gail, what was your take? Do you agree?
So, for instance, having literally yesterday finished the door course, so I've had a group of people who I'm introducing into the industry, and the youngest was 27 and the eldest was 63, and of my group I had 25% women, which is great. And through every single one of them, my point was always, listen guys, yes, we're going to get conflict. I'm not even going to deny that. Yes, you're going to be called all the names under the sun, because people aren't going to get what they want. People are going to lie to you. But you know what? At the end of the day, you morph to match your clients and your customers. they won't change to match you, but you can make the difference between how their night starts and finishes. And we invite these people to join us, and you can get a massive amount of respect just by being the person that says, "Hi, how are you?" Popping that little tag in on the back of the girl's dress that none of her mates have bothered to, stick in, or a boyfriend. Listening to them, like Lisa said, having empathy with men and with women, because they're human beings. And I love people. I absolutely adore people. And to me, it still is one of the best jobs in the world. And we have changed, and women have made a huge amount of change in that. We stand there on that front door in the wind, the cold, and the rain, along with the boys, knowing that I never stood there thinking I would get hit, and they respected that. At first, they tried to protect me, and that was great. But step aside, guys, because actually, if we do this right, I won't need protecting.
Absolutely correct.
No, we literally will do it. And I have to say again, touch wood, in all the years I've had my badge, I've only actually been hit once, and I've been on every single type of role, protests, front doors, etc. And it is, I'm not special. I just have, as Lisa said, the empathy. And Vanessa, I know you're going to be the same. It's almost like having that mummy role, isn't it? But for females, it is incredibly important that they know they've got a safe space to go to, that should they have had an incident. Ask Angela, ask for Angela. It's another great one. It's sad that we should be making these safe spaces. They should be able to go out and have a right and wherever they want. But the fact that they can physically see us there is that visual that actually I saw that woman down there and I can go down there. Really important.
What about you, Vanessa?
Yeah, I think I've been quite lucky, really. I mean, I don't know, like we've had incidents where we had a large group of northern guys come down. I think there's about 7 or 8 of them. End of night, all over intoxicated, getting a little bit rowdy. The response team took one look at them and just thought, I don't even know how we're going to deal with this, because they're all like 6'5" plus and we're not. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to go and stand in the middle of these guys and just chat rubbish to them for the last half an hour of this night, which I did. Literally calmed them right the way down, because I was standing in the middle just talking to them. Came to the end of the night, they all left. It was all hugs, smiles. It completely de-escalated everything just by being in the middle of this large group. And I think I was saying the other day to a member of my staff, because we had an injection over the weekend, and I think I've only ever had one injection out of the hundreds I've done that hasn't ended in either a hug or I wish you really well, I really hope to see you again. And that's in however many years I've been doing this role, so definitely makes a difference.
We do have a massive role to play. I know we have got violence against women, and there are still some men out there who would hit a woman, but you know what, there's still a vast majority that wouldn't. However, some of the young ladies out there wouldn't think twice about scrapping my eyes out.
No, definitely.
Where you boys come in.
Yeah.
I think I'm more scared of the girls, I must say.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you on that one, Lisa.
Interesting. I've got a pitch in here because I read in the Times today. There's Bechtel, the theatre union group, saying I've noticed that since the pandemic there's been a rise in violence, especially in musicals, and guess who the main offenders are? It's the girls. They want to go, they come out, apparently they've had a few prosecco too many, and they want to dance, and sing along, and apparently it gets quite wild, and and the stuff that are working in there are quite frightening. Look, I want to say ask something now, because I don't want to miss the chance. Myths, yeah, there are myths, about females working in security. Yeah,
That we're all gay.
Yeah, what? Are you not gay, Gail? Is that what you said?
Yeah, you've got to be a lesbian to be a female working the door, haven't you?
Well, think about that with me, Gail, with my buzz cut hair do, blonde, all right. I just, I'm either getting hit on by lesbians, I'm either being told that I'm gay by blokes, or it's quite funny, actually. It's quite amusing.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also, just as you say, just like, what, you going in, are you going in the club? I've had a load of people thinking that I was actually going out, and I was like, no, I'm here to protect you. And they just can't, that whole perception of, we have been feeding them this image of the big burly blokes, bald head, looking a bit menacing on the door. And this is partly the industry's fault as well, kind of not spending more time about busting that myth. It's not been like that for ages. Look at the two of you, like this Gail and this, Vanessa, absolute example that hasn't been the case for a while. But the industry has not been really good about promoting that diversity. And don't get me wrong, it's not diverse because there's only 10% of us, but those of us that are there, and the jobs that we're doing and the impact that we're making, it's not been, we should be shouting it from the rooftops, and we just haven't been doing that, right?
No.
And I don't know why. I just don't know why we haven't been doing it. We have a competitive edge, I think, as women in this industry. And I think we really, the industry needs to recognize that. And I think women need to recognize that as well. And that is what I'm talking to. So my role at the moment is going out and educating women in other industry sectors, saying, look, I know at the moment that you think that place over there is not where you would even consider working, but take it from me. I'm living embodiment of the fact that it is somewhere. It needs to do some work, but it is a place where you can transfer those skills, and where your skills, more importantly, are really, really needed. And it's about getting that conversation right. Yeah.
Vanessa, what's yours? Have you got any myths? Were you called a lesbian as well? Have you been called a lesbian?
Oh, we get called everything, but I'm not really bothered by that one. I think it's also the perception, especially when I first started, because we hadn't long transitioned from bouncers to door supervisors. So you had that whole thing of women shouldn't even be in this industry. You shouldn't be working it. You're not part of the team, because we're going to need to look after you if it kicks off. And ironically, the one person who generally would turn around to me and went to me, I just don't think women have a place in security. When it actually kicked off, it was only the female security that actually came to his rescue. Two of the men were hiding in the toilets, and the other one we didn't even see at the end of the shift. So I don't know where he went. So, but yeah, it helps change the perspective of certain people when you're still there for them. And like we said, we diffuse a lot as well, just by going in. It can diffuse it. So yeah, I think my main myth that I face has been the challenges of how my male colleagues have seen me.
Have you found, though, as well, Vanessa, over the years that, because you're there, you've actually changed the attitudes of some of the guys that are old school and have been working,
Yeah, definitely. I think once they work with me, or they work and see how I work, they see how we train, because we put a lot of training into our company in general, it changes their perception, because they see, actually, I'm not this, this prim and proper female that needs looking. I mean, I'm not even small. I'm 5'11", so it's not like I'm this tiny little 5 foot nothing frail thing that they could even have that perception easily. But for some reason they get it because I've got boobs. But yeah, it's just changing that perspective. Which
I think what I was trying to say, do you find that the people you've worked with, the way they work has changed because of the way they've seen us work?
Not really, because I've actually been quite lucky that the majority I have worked with have been ex-services. So they're already very disciplined, they're already very grounded, they're already very respectful.
Okay.
You know, if the poo hits the fan, they're great people to have around, but they've obviously got that other side where they've actually been very calm. I find it harder now to get respect from some of the staff, but I don't change how they work. I'm actually stronger than them. But yeah, I find now the challenge that I'm getting as a female in this industry is the respect. You know, I mean, I've booked staff for work and they've literally messaged my husband and said, do you want me to do this job? And if he says yes, they'll do it. But if I say I want them to do it, they won't do it. But at the end of the day, it's the same job.
Interesting.
So that's the challenge I'm getting now on trying to educate them that just because I am a female doesn't make a difference to the job bookings they're getting. It doesn't make a difference to how they should be performing. It doesn't make a difference to how they should be turning up. And it doesn't matter what the gender of the person is or what colour the person is or what ethnicity, what religion, etc. Respect is respect and it's due 100%. Absolutely. You know, and that's the challenge I've got now. So I'm trying to get them to come up to being a little bit more open-minded, the new generation door supervisor or guest safety officer.
Yeah. Well, I've seen it in so much as, you know, we've had some real die-hard bouncers who now speak to people and realise that actually, do you know what? It's okay to have a bit of banter with them, and they've relaxed a little bit more because they've seen that it works. So they've gone into doors and they've, you know, as new door staff, and they've gone on with old school bouncer types, and that's where they've learned. And they've learned that they need to stand there and not say very much at all. But I've seen, I mean, we've got one chap that works with us, part of our team, and he's been a solid part of our team for 10 years. The way he talks to people now is lovely because he talks to them, you know, and he's always the one that just stood there, and yet we'd be chit-chat, and then suddenly a subject would come up and he'd feel comfortable enough to talk to them and not feel that he was letting down his barriers. And that's I suppose what I was sort of getting to about the way they change in a positive way.
See, I've been really lucky then, because all the old school door bouncers that I first worked with, and to be fair, there's not that many of them around anymore. But back in 1997, 1998, when I first came into the door supervisor world, they've always had that gift of the gab, to be fair. I mean, I've never found, maybe it's because I've been around, I don't know, I hadn't seen them when I wasn't around, but I've been very fortunate, clearly, because they've always chatted, they've always had the banter. It's just if the crap had the fan, they would then switch into bouncer mode, rather they weren't. I've never experienced that, so I can't.
I mean, it's interesting. I've actually experienced that because, like you, Gail, I'm chatty, I'm nosy, I love people, and I love partying. So I'm like in my perfect natural habitat. And so just as part of just being out and on the doors and just being a bit excited about it, I just ask, I want to know about people's life stories. I want to know, you know, how many kids they've got and, you know, blah, blah, blah. I want to know everything because I want to put that I want to know who you are and put all of that into context. And I want us to be able to have stuff to talk about outside of that role that we're doing. We're all different people, but the common thing is that we're doing that job. So what's the easiest way to break down barriers between people from different walks of life? Well, it's to talk about life. You know, we all have families, we all have whatever, and then bring that into the role. And then there was one particular guy who'd been on the doors at this particular club not on the club, but he'd been a door supervisor for like 20 years. And it was around September 2021, as we were coming out of the pandemic. We were still doing things like we were COVID passes, and it was Freshers Week, so it was pandemonium, and we were having to check bags. And, you know, bearing in mind these young people were out, they were queuing under all of these conditions, you just think, fair play to you, right? You know, fair play to you. Let's make this as easy as possible. Let's make this as pain-free as possible. And that was, you know, bantering, talking. And this guy basically pulled me aside, really nice guy, and he went, I just don't know how you do that. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. He said, look at the way that they respond to you. And I said, I'm just talking to them. He said, oh, I couldn't do that. I said, no, you're telling yourself you can't do that. You can. If you allow yourself to kind of break down this barrier between you wearing this badge, having to look and stand and protect premises, and remember that you're just dealing with a human being. It could be your niece, it could be your auntie, it could be your, you know, your granddaughter. Just imagine that that person is someone related to you, and find the chat. You can do it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it didn't come naturally to him, fair enough, but it did resonate. He did understand what I was going, and I watched him make an effort. I mean, he was a bit awkward, but he made an effort, and it really moved me. Do you know what I mean? It's like, we're not all the same. We can't all be like me. That's not the point, but you just have to understand that that's what the role requires of you, and you have to at least give it a go. Do you know what I mean? And if people can see that you're trying, then I think half the battle's done, right?
I think you're right. I'm sorry to interrupt because literally, as Gary will say, I always, you know, we always find that it's getting too interesting for our own good, and if I don't shut you up, or more important, when I used to shut Gary up, that's why I have to do it. But the point is we won't get finished, and there's a couple of other questions that I really want to ask at the moment, and I'm going to go, because we've got you here, a magistrate. Wow. Saying, well, it's useful. The Workers' Protection Bill has been all the rage over the weekend, and how that is going to impact the nighttime economy, for people working in the industry. Now, because obviously we're going to leave you till last on this one, Lisa, so that we can hear from Vanessa and then Gail. So Vanessa, what do you think to the Workers' Protection Bill? How do you see that working?
In principle, it's a good idea, but to say that as an employer, we're responsible for anything that potentially goes wrong for the staff does concern me, especially given, because you can only give you can give the tools to the staff, you can give them the training, you can give them the knowledge, you can give them support, you know, but at the end of the day, I'm not responsible for what the clients are booking. I will always argue with my clients if I feel that they've underbooked, or if I feel that they're trying to cut corners, and I always do it in writing, just to really like home it into them, to, you know, scare them off a bit as well. It normally works, doesn't always, but there's only so much anyone can do, including the individual on the ground, to be fair. And unfortunately sometimes crap happens, and so I'm a little bit, I see the plus in it. Like, it's nice for the worker to think they're going to work, they're protected, they've got all of this in play to support them and look after them, but how much of what goes wrong can I personally be held responsible for as the employer? And I don't think that that is fair to especially small companies.
Gail?
Well, the same thing. Again, you know, the one thing that everybody has the right to do is remove themselves from a situation where they feel they're going to be in danger. Everybody already had that right already. We have to accept, though, that some jobs we're putting ourselves in danger just by the nature of the very job, i.e. the police, ourselves, fire service and everything like that. How much sometimes does the employee invite some of the problems, exactly like Vanessa said? However, I do also accept that some employers treat their staff appallingly, even in 2023. And there's bullying in the workplace. That should be addressed. Bullying still, because of gender, sexuality, race, age, all of this. That's where we need to be looking at, you know, at that sort of higher level but basics. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, we all should be able to step out of our front doors and be treated, as Lisa said, quite, a couple of times, as human beings. But we have to accept that there are some elements of it. And again, as small businesses, we're probably more at the front line, at the control of it. If we feel, for instance, we've got a bad door, we'll walk away from it. If the guys and girls say to us, not comfortable, the DPS in there is not really working to whatever, we'll say, right, we'll try and have a little word. And if it's not working, then we will walk away from it. And yes, there's a loss of income to us, but I'd rather lose that income to us than lose decent people working with us. So how much can we do? How much can we be responsible for?
I mean, I totally understand what both ladies have said. I think it's a bit of a cop-out, I think, on behalf of government to think that they should be firmly putting the responsibility onto small business owners generally. We're not talking about the mighties of this world. Don't get me wrong, though. I do believe that there is not enough due diligence that security companies, not all, but a lot of them, just don't care, right? They, as we say, they treat their staff appallingly. They discriminate. They just exploit them. And if we held them slightly more accountable with their due diligence, making sure that the kind of the people that they have on their books, are the right kind of people, then we go somewhere. However, I think one of the things that we should be looking at in terms of legislation is exactly the way that we have looked at first line of defense, right? So we're talking about the ambulance workers and fire service. If anyone assaults a PC or assaults an ambulance worker, there is a law statute that says that is an assault PC or assault emergency worker, that you're going to court, basically. And that is an offence. Now, I, to this day, still do not understand how frontline security workers do not fall squarely into that role. I just don't understand it. It was all right for us, when we were doing that role for them during the pandemic. As soon as the pandemic was over, they kind of forgot that we were filling a gap because there were no police officers on the bloody street. And then, they've just left the frontline security officer high and dry. They should be protected under law by the same kind of legislation that has ambulance workers, fire service, police. It's just full stop for me. And they had an opportunity to do it, and I don't know why they haven't done it. I really don't understand. So,
despite the phrase that we were part of the wider police community, there was a massive statement about that.
Yeah, correct. It's just, it's just beyond a joke. So I think there was a huge missed opportunity. I don't know why they haven't done it, and I certainly don't understand why they feel that they have the right to push all of this responsibility onto the business owners. It's just not fair.
I just don't think they see us as a profession. I think they just see us as,
Right.
I mean, if I was unemployed and I was at the job centre, they wouldn't say to me, well, I'm going to highly recommend you go and join the police force, and we're going to push for you to go and join the police force and become a police officer. But they're quick enough to say, well, you've been unemployed for 6 months or a year, we need to get you back to work, go and do a DS course. And so they're not seeing it as a profession, they're just seeing it as an easy tick box to get people working.
Yeah, off universal credit and into employment. No, I understand. I agree. And I just think, it's interesting because at the moment I'm been lucky enough to start having some conversations with the regulator, and they are listening to my voice. I don't know how long they're going to do that for, but I'm outspoken. I said to them, I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. And this is coming from someone who's seen it with their own eyes, and you need to listen. And so there are steering groups that, I'm being invited onto to discuss ways in which we can professionalize this industry. And it's all about, continued professional development, right? And it's about, again, who is going to pay for this? It can't all be landed on the people, running the businesses. They already have enough of a burden. What can we do? How can we share? Because it is a shared responsibility. We can't, as running a security company, you can't say, well, that's not down to me. No, we have to be responsible for the industry that we represent. But that has to be shared, I think. And I think we need to find ways, whether it's central government money, pushing that into sort of a skills provision or education, whatever. We need to think kind of in sort of with joined up thinking about how we're going to approach this, because otherwise, you know, the benchmark is always going to be down there, and it needs to be raised, and it needs to be raised from Manchester to you know, Cornwall. It has to be the same. We can't have these fluctuations in, oh, they're doing a really good job over there, but it's completely different to over there. You know, we can't attract people into the industry if we can't present ourselves as a go-to rather than a stopgap. Because as you say, but it's everyone looks at this industry and thinks, oh, well, I need a bit of extra cash. I need, you know, I'm doing this until this other thing comes up. We need to change that. And we need to think about what we're offering people as a, you know, is there a critical pathway? Is there a career pathway? What can we show them? How can we clear it up so that they can see that there's more to a security role than just, you know, not that there's anything wrong with that, but, you know, it's not about just standing on the door of a club. It could be about intelligence. It could be, you know, all sorts. It's a vast industry, but the industry does not do enough to publicize, you know, what it can offer. And
but when the
real
staff in the
shame.
stores are being paid more than the security team, that's where your disparities come, you know, and it's not seen as a role with any respect from the general wider public either. We, during lockdown, you know, our team was so shocked at the amount of abuse they were given on a Tuesday afternoon at Morrison's compared to what they would get of a Saturday night at the biggest nightclub. And, you know, I mean, I've had it thrown at me, as you probably have, Vanessa, and certainly in retail, is jobs worths. Is that all you can do? And again, Lisa, you're absolutely right. It is something that, we'll go and do that. I've just been approached by our local job centre. Apparently they're working with some people to do their door course, and they've asked me, can you give them a guaranteed job interview? No, I can't, because I'm not going to be part of your tick boxing exercise. What I will do is, if somebody can come to me and present me with not just their store supervisor badge, but actually with some life skills to go with it, I won't just give them a guaranteed job interview. I will give them a chance to come and join the team. But I'm not going to do it to tick a box to get someone off universal credit. And the good thing about this industry is that there is a place for everyone. Some people are better off in the dark with no people. All right, we've all got those, you know, they're around. It doesn't mean, Foxy, you could be one of those, you know.
What kind of attack is that?
There isn't a job for them. You know, it's playing to people's skills, exactly as you just said. People's skills.
Yeah, let's talk about people's skills, Gail. And can I just, on a serious note though, Gail, because what you're saying is, you know, not right about obviously me being put in the dark. But
with no people.
With no people. But on a serious note, and I want to pick up on this career. Do you think, ladies, that if it was properly structured, the career, so that right from the get-go, there was always a path for you to go further, to go into the police, you know, so yes, you start in security to low level, and then you like it, and you go into the police, that you can get life skills in, you know, the security sector gives you the life skills, and then you can then go forward and take it from there. What do you think to that? Is that a possibility?
I think
I've heard.
Sorry, Lisa.
Yeah, no, I was thinking it's doable, but I don't see why we should be saying and then going to the police force. The private security industry is vast, you know, from cyber security to intelligence to this and that. Why would they need to? There's enough going on in the industry itself, but it's so opaque, right? It's so, you just wouldn't even know where to start. If you started as a door supervisor and you wanted to be, I don't know, head of global security for Nomura Bank, you'd have no idea about how to get there, how long it would take you, what courses you would, not a clue, but it's there, it's in there somewhere, but we don't highlight it. We haven't structured the framework around the industry to make it accessible for all. And that's all it needs to do, I think.
Okay. Vanessa, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I just think, you know, I mean, as you know, we do a lot of in-house training. I think we worked out the other day, me and Gary, our staff have 26 qualifications by the time they leave us on top of their DS badge. And they're all transferable skills. It's like they do GDPR, they do body worn, they do so much, statement writing, etc. And it's not about having security as a step up into the police, because we have police stepping down then into security. It needs to be recognised as a career. It needs to be promoted. People need to want to sit there and go, actually, do you know what when I leave school, I want to train up and become a security officer. I want to work within the security industry, rather than being, you know, you have the police representing careers days, you have the fire service, you have the government, you have, you know, prison service. When do you ever go to career service? I mean, it may have changed, I don't know, I'm a bit out of it now, but to me, security has never ever been promoted as a career option or potential career, and that's basically where it needs to start changing, and from there it's then limitless.
Absolutely.
Gail?
Absolutely, I absolutely agree. I mean, we can look at that on two sides, and I mean, our youngest son just applied for the police. It was something he'd always wanted to do. He didn't come into the business. He went to work in a factory, and you know, that's what he wanted to do. He's now within the business, but he likes the thought of taking his skills and using them to a better good, where actually he's not frustrated. Because, I mean, you look at something as simple as our band list, okay? So we've got people coming in, and we collect a lot of drugs at one particular venue. We don't have a drugs problem, but we do collect a lot of drugs. Does that make sense? And this is, again, what I was trying to say to the cohort we had yesterday. It looks like a lot of drugs, but that's because we confiscated those. We played a vital part in removing these drugs from that night. Yet, you know, the police are doing the exact same thing, and they'll pop out a little report saying, oh, you know, this week, we've done so many stops for drink driving and drug driving. Well, do you know what? We did that Saturday night, you know, but we don't get to shout it from the rooftops. And yet, if, you know, people say, yeah, but how many drugs got in? It doesn't matter how many got in. We'll never stop it. But actually, we stopped a huge amount coming out. And it's the frustrations like that where it isn't recognised what we do actually achieve. Now, we've got, like, exactly like you said, Lisa, asset protection. Yeah, you can go into CP, but retail protection. The amount of people we protect of a Friday and Saturday night from getting hurt. We're a beacon for a lot of people. We are that safe space, and we are still just seen as that, you know, that bloke on the door or that person on the door that got bullied as a child. You know, it's the only job we can do. The industry doesn't help itself.
Yeah.
Does the SIA, Foxy, you might know better than I, and Lisa, you're, you know, obviously speaking to people. These badges, there's just been a reduction in the price of badges. Great.
Got £6.
I know, it's just ludicrous.
But could they have kept the price of the badge and said, look, you know, £15 for everybody's badge. We're now going to invest in this particular project. Okay? So yes, you see that we're taking your money, but we're now going to reinvest it into this industry.
Correct.
ACS. We're approached by companies, they say, are you ACS? We say no. And they say, do you intend to be? I say no. Because for me,
blame you. Yeah.
I don't believe it's worth the paper it's written on.
Correct. I'm 100% with you.
Yeah.
We're exactly the same.
I'm a
think we have a-
fanboy. I'm an ACS fanboy. So
Yeah, but I think the difference is we've sat in front of the SIA and they've literally looked at how we vet, they looked at what we do, they look at everything, and they literally have sat there and looked us square in the face and gone, you work above any standard we've put out there, like you're way above our standards, but you're not recognising that because we haven't got ACS little tick box on our thing, yet, you know, the service we provide to the guys on the ground alone is far outweighing anything the SIA are putting out there. And they come along, they meet, they listen, they nod, they take notes, they tick boxes, they go, this is a really good idea, we'll come back. Someone will come back, oh yeah, this is amazing, blah, and then they disappear. It's like you're listening to us, but you're not hearing us.
Yeah. And, you know, we've seen it. So ACS companies, you see it around New Year's Eve, Facebook, New Year's Eve. You know, £25 an hour immediate start. That's an ACS company. How can you do that if you're following all the ACS rules?
yeah.
Exactly.
Don't pretend,
Yeah.
you know, to be doing what you're doing if you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
We're as transparent can be.
Yeah.
Yes, we look at you come to. I would hope that if you came to any of our team members, they'll all say that Gerald and Gail look out for us. They can ring us at any time of day or night and say, I've been arrested. And we say, right, we'll be there in however long.
Mm.
Can you do that if you work for G4S?
Yeah.
Who are ACS, by the way?
Mm.
They don't even know who you are.
Yeah,
you know,
well, that.
you know.
Mm.
So it's all about perception and investment. And actually, right up until I had this conversation with these two wonderful ladies, I hadn't really got my soapbox about it.
Well,
Brilliant.
look, I'm really sorry, but you know, I told you earlier not to be interesting, didn't I? I said it. I did.
We're going to have
warn
a
you.
part 2, aren't we?
Well, actually, that is a really, really good idea, and we will. You know, that's if you know, if you're all up for it.
For sure.
We'll try and find somewhere dark for me to be, Gail. Not happy about that. But anyway, it is time sort of to say end of part 1 then, Lisa. But I'm just going to go round the table again just to say any last thoughts, Lisa.
I am ever hopeful. As I say, accidental campaigner for the safety of women and young people and vulnerable people, especially within the nighttime economy. I am on a mission to change that 10% to around 40% within the next 3 to 5 years. I am not going to stop until people in the places that need to be listening are listening. I'm going to be shouting it from the rooftops. I've started and I'm not finished yet.
Good.
So watch this space.
Gail?
Lisa, you know, you're a breath of fresh air.
Oh, thank you.
I really do wish you well. And you know what, if there's anything I or we can do to help you along your pathway, you know, then you know, please do get in touch. And it is great to see that somebody is being listened to. Most of the time,
how long it's going to last?
Yeah, I'm usually too busy doing rotas to even take a phone call from anybody else. But you know what I mean. But no, and I think ultimately we are three. I don't want to use the word strong because I don't think we have to be strong women. I think we just have to be women who hold strong our beliefs and strong that we can do what we can do, and strong as in confident. We don't have to be bolshy about it. You know, two very attractive women and very articulate women that I'm looking at there. And I think that helps because we're not militant looking, you know, we're all pretty normal.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
probably wired up wrong, because we have to be. But I do think, and Foxy, I do think there's definitely a part 2, if not 3 and 4.
All right, okay, well we'll do it, you know, because obviously I'm now living in fear.
We're just taking over.
Vanessa.
Well, you know, I'm going to jump on the back of the guest safety officer, I think, and do a female guest safety officer or female representing guest safety officer lobby group. But on another note, yeah, I just think, you know, there definitely needs to be more women in the industry. It's just getting it out there. But maybe they also need to start having more women on their board meetings and their secret panels that they have for complete transparency. So they're actually getting our perspective rather than the white cis males that are all sitting there giving their opinion every 5 minutes.
And on the last note, you've got to look at your end service users.
Correct.
You know,
That's it.
you know,
You want to get more women in the industry, you need more women representing us
Yeah.
at the top. They need more women in the SI that have security experience as well.
Correct.
Not these ones that have been an ambulance driver or a retail worker or a school headmistress. You need to have women with a security background representing the SIA.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, you know.
Amen to that. Amen.
Well, as a cis man, you know, I want to know that I went on a course. I've been this week. I've done last week I did my right to be course, bystander intervention, and I also did the trans inclusion in the music industry, because you know I want to be part of this. And I am actually well aware that I am the archetypal red-faced gammon, you know, that.
Oh, but we love you. There you go.
Yeah.
I did say
That is me being managed, and I am used to being managed because my wife does that. She always pats me on the head when she thinks I'm feeling, you know, a little bit downtrodden. Anyway, ladies, this show's been all about you. We will have a part 2. Hopefully it can be without me, because I don't want to be abused, Gail. And that basically, I suppose, sums it all up. Just so that you know how to get to be head of Nomura Banking in security, yeah, join the police. Because if you want to be in any of those jobs, you need to be a policeman. To have been a policeman first.
A little tap on the shoulder, the little rub on the, yeah.
That's what you get.
Rub on the nipple there.
Yeah.
It's a pension. Yeah, it's no Mason talk.
Yeah.
And we're off. Ladies and gentlemen, Vanessa, Lisa, Gail, thank you so much for taking the time.
Really nice to
appreciate
see you
it.
all.
Right.
You
You
too.
too.
Bye.